Good evening. My name is Caitlin Lundrigan. I've been asked to say a few words about the loss of a true revolutionary for transgender rights, workers' rights, and social justice, Leslie Feinberg. Leslie passed away on November 15th. Leslie was influential to me when I was coming out through the book Transgender Warrior. Leslie was also acclaimed for the novel Stone Butch Blues, in which many of us were helped to see ourselves not only as seeking recognition as queer and trans, but as advocates fighting for economic justice. Leslie changed the way I look at our government and current events, helping me to see that often the conflicts we find necessary to protest are orchestrated as distractions away from what the ultra-wealthy are doing to garner more wealth and power for themselves. Leslie showed by many personal examples that we must protest anyway. Leslie Feinberg modeled for me that despite personal circumstances, we must call forth all our energies to stand up for one another, as Z did wholeheartedly for CeCe McDonald. Leslie did this despite being arrested for protesting on CeCe's behalf and spending time in jail while she was also seriously ill. The loss of Leslie Feinberg is the loss of a true transgender warrior. We all need to step up now and be warriors for justice ourselves. I think our fighting that good fight is the way to best honor Leslie Feinberg.
Good evening, everybody. I want to remind you, if you have light sticks, now may be a good time to light them up in honor of the people we're honoring. I'm Lisa Sheps. I'm one of the original founders of Transgender Education Network of Texas, and have been very active with TENT since we started it. This is the 13th Austin Transgender DOR. This is my 12th and my 14th DOR in total when I came here from Chicago. It's really sad in a lot of ways that we are here together again, but we also take comfort in being with one another. And that's one of the real reasons why we're here, to honor those people that lost their lives through violence simply for being themselves. So once again, on behalf of Transgender Education Network of Texas, I'd like to welcome you, and most of all, I'd like to thank you for being here and honoring those brave brothers and sisters that lost their lives simply for living their truths. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Martinez, and I was the chair of the 2014 Transgender Day of Remembrance. So before we get started, I do want to do a couple of quick announcements. First of all, I did want to thank all the members of the 2014 Transgender Day of Remembrance Committee, without whom tonight could not have been put together. Rivka, Noel, Jessica, Anna, Stephanie, both Claire's, Braylon, Ambrish. I'm sure I missed somebody in there. I couldn't have done this without you. But I'd also like to give a very special thank you to our co-sponsors that helped out with the cost of putting on tonight's event. You have my eternal gratitude. And finally, I'd like to thank our ASL interpreters who have volunteered their services I don't know how many years. Your service and assistance is truly appreciated. We do realize that tonight's event can be quite emotional. We do have two wonderful licensed clinical social workers who volunteered to give you a few minutes of their time if you need to talk. We'll have Katie Kuntz, who I don't believe is here yet. She'll be over in this area wearing blue. And we have Paula Bowles, who's over here wearing green. So if you need some assistance or need to talk, feel free to reach one of them. If you're looking for the restroom, it is under the stairs that you're sitting on. The entrance is near the door to City Hall. And if you would like to be walked to your car after the conclusion of the event, please let one of us know. We'll be happy to get somebody to walk you to it. And lastly, every year we do offer an open invitation to join us for fellowship after we complete the teardown of the event. We'll be meeting at the IHOP at Cesar Chavez and IH 35. Let them know you're with the tent group. They do know to expect us about 9 o'clock. So now, I don't know how I feel tonight. I'm angry and I'm sad at the same time. I'm angry that once more we have to stand here, that once more we have a list of names to read, that we have to face the bitter reality that there are those out there who think that transgender lives don't matter. Well, I've got news for them. They do matter. We are people. We are important. We are brothers, sisters, aunts and uncles, mothers and fathers, daughters and sons, spouses and lovers. We are just as valuable as everybody else. We're just a little bit different. But I'm also sad because these names, which are represented by these 14 chairs behind me, are not just names. These are people that lives were cut short. These are the promise of tomorrow that will never be fulfilled. And this is friends and family that mourn and miss their loved ones taken from them because somebody who was afraid or hated or thought something was just too different and didn't think that it was okay. It's never okay to kill somebody. As I prepared for this year, I thought about the names and I read the stories. Far too many names tonight are people of color. They're a community that I wish that we could serve better. It's a community that's voice is not often heard, but whose needs are no less real. I was also struck by how things are written, though. Every time I read a story, it's so-and-so, dressed as a woman. Of course she was dressed as a woman. She is a woman. Why does that have to be anything less than that? But I wonder about my brothers, the trans men. Where are their names? I'm sure that my brothers suffer the same fate, but sadly it goes unreported, it seems. What about those who've had genital surgery and may not be immediately recognized as being transgender? Their voices also tonight may not be heard. Tonight we read only a small section of names that were murdered for being who they are here in North America. The numbers get truly horrific when you start adding in all the other countries. The killing has to stop. The intolerance has to stop. Tonight when you arrived, we gave you a small stone. As the evening progresses, I invite you to hold that stone, to think about the words that are spoken, the names that are read, and to commit yourself to a world where we can make a change. We come here to mourn. We come here to remember. But I will leave here with a commitment to be a change in the world that makes tonight no longer necessary. It may not happen tomorrow, but if we keep making our voices heard, it will happen. I wanted to finish tonight by telling a story I once shared back in 2008 at this very spot. One which I vowed then I would never forget, and which I still carry with me to this day. It's the day that tonight became all too real to me. It seemed a fairly ordinary morning. I was in the car on the way to work. I turned on the radio. Over the news came an announcement about a story of a youth that had been killed in California. The words hung in the air for a moment, but it's such a common occurrence anymore. But the next few words are what caught me unaware and swept me into the story. Because you see, this was a killing that had happened in Oxnard, California. Lawrence King was gone at the age of 15. Not in my town could no longer be said by me. It has happened in my town. It's not a long-forgotten backwater in some rural area. It has caused me to wonder if I had dared to talk to others in school about the struggles I had, would I have met the same fate? Surely it's gotten better in the 28 years since I've been out of school. Each day I hear the positive stories of those youth who work to form gay-straight alliances, who are able to be out and proud about who they are. Yet I also hear the stories of others who continue to be afraid and hide or are even ashamed of who they are. I marvel at the strength of youth today who draw that line in the sand and say, no more. Who seek to find their allies in battle, or in our battle. And in a battle that I've had to struggle to even want to be involved in. It wasn't my town, it wasn't my battle, but the battle has come to me now. A shattered innocence and a life lost. Lawrence is gone, but he'll never be forgotten. At least not by this woman. No longer can I stand silent while others are oppressed, beaten, or kept silent for fear or shame. It's a shame it's taken me this long to truly understand that this is something that can and does affect all of us. It's not limited to some small town, nor is it a problem at a big city. From state to state, from country to country, it happens. People are murdered, silenced, or shamed into hurting or even killing themselves because they're different. I look forward to the day when I can next say, not in my town, because then it will not be in any town. Let the healing begin.
Twilight People by the Rabbi Reuben Zellman. As the sun sinks and the colors of the day turn, we offer a blessing for the twilight. For twilight is neither day nor night, but in between. We are all twilight people. We can never be fully labeled or defined. We are many identities and loves, many genders and none. We are in between roles at the intersection of histories or between place and place. We are crisscrossed paths of memory and destination, streaks of light swirled together. We are neither day nor night. We are both, neither, and all. May the sacred in-between of this evening suspend our certainties, soften our judgments, and widen our vision. May this in-between light illuminate our way to the God who transcends all categories and definitions. May the in-between people who have come to pray be lifted up into the twilight. We cannot always define, we can always say a blessing. Blessed are you, God of all, who brings on the twilight. We have many different beliefs and names for God, different beliefs even about the existence of God. But know this, you are lovable. You are loved.
Be it known that whereas transgender people are among the most disenfranchised minority group in our country, often experiencing discrimination and fear of violence on a daily basis, and whereas Transgender Education Network of Texas is uniting with other groups throughout the world to remember those who have died through violence and hate, and whereas we join the attendees at tonight's 13th annual local memorial in decrying the inhumane treatment and tragic loss of life experienced by transgender people. Now, therefore, I, Lee Leffingwell, Mayor of Austin, do hereby proclaim November 20th, 2014 as the day of Transgender Day of Remembrance in Austin, Texas.
My name is Megan Stabler. I'm on the HRC National Board of Directors, and joining me here are the members of the local steering committee. We come together as a community to remember transgender people, gender variant individuals, and those perceived to be transgender who have been murdered because of hate. The national and international crisis of anti-trans violence continues with brutal intensity. Every 32 hours, a trans woman is reported murdered. We pay homage to those who have been killed as a result of transphobia. We bring attention to the acts of violence and aggression suffered by the transgender community. This year, 268 murders, 77 instances of direct physical violence, 6 known suicides, 4 silicon murders, and 3 missing persons were reported from November 19th, 2013 through to November 14th, 2014. Horrifying acts against trans people include a trans woman in Australia who was dismembered and cooked in a pot by her husband. 5 transgender women and numerous others in a club were firebombed in Mexico. 2 transgender women were skinned alive. An 18-year-old was dragged behind a motorcycle, resulting in head trauma and death. A 16-year-old was tied up, face burned repeatedly, and then tortured to death. A teen was set on fire on a public bus coming home from school in California. Trans women of color have continued to be the targets of murder and of violence. Of the murders reported in the United States, 10 of the 14 victims were trans women of color. Statistics can only tell a small piece of the tragedies that have occurred this year. The stories about real transgender people are much more than a number, though. They were sisters, they were brothers, they were friends, they were parents, they were grandchildren, and they were much more. All Americans should feel responsible to help bring an end to this violence before it claims even one more innocent soul. The progress of equality has to reach everyone. We fail as a movement if we leave anyone behind. We are here in solemn tribute to those who have lost their lives to anti-transgender hatred and prejudice. We are here to raise awareness of the consistent threat of discrimination and violence faced by the transgender community. We are here for those who are hurting, for those who are hiding, and for those who are suffering. We are here to stand together and speak up for those who face intimidation, harassment, and bullying every day because of who they are and who they love. We are here to help find them a light of hope in the darkest of times. We're here to honor their lives and authenticity. We proudly stand with them. We proudly stand as a community. We are here so that no one is alone. So I ask that each of you, every one of us, stand up and recommit to solidarity as a community, to live our truth with unapologetic authenticity. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Keys, and I want to talk about where I got this song that I'm going to sing tonight. This summer, when the Israelis and the Palestinians were hurling bombs at one another, and it seemed like every day there were a couple hundred people dying, a friend of mine posted a poem that was written by Edna St. Vincent Millay called Dirge Without Music. And when I read it, I heard music. I heard a rhythm, I heard a melody, and as I was going through my mind, I thought this would be a wonderful song to sing tonight to you all. Because it has to do with how horrible death is. Edna St. Vincent Millay was a feminist before feminism was popular. She wrote poetry in the way men wrote poetry. And if you can imagine, at the time, there was a difference between the way men and women wrote poetry. She wrote sonnets, which was unknown as a woman. And she was the first woman to win the Pulitzer Prize for poetry. She was also a very obvious and public and open bisexual. She liked her friends to call her Vincent. And she wrote generally about love. She wrote love poems, and she knew love because she practiced a lot. But this song is not about love, it is about death. One of the things, or one of the phrases you're going to hear that I'm going to sing here is that I am not resigned. I am not resigned means I'm not giving up. And I'm not giving up. I believe that the world needs to be a place where hatred that causes the murders of people simply because they are who they are. I believe that world is possible. When we think about how we go about working for that, I believe also we need to pay attention to ourselves as transgender people, or people who are allies to us. It's kind of a hollow honor to honor those who've died when we don't take care of them when they're living. we need to take care of those who need us. So as I'm singing this song, listen to the words. The lyrics are hauntingly beautiful. The music's mine, but Vincent wrote these words in 1926. I am not resigned to the shutting away of loving hearts in the hard ground. So it is, so it shall be, time out of mind. Into the darkness they go, the mine's the lovely crown. With lilies and with laurel they go, but I am not resigned. Lovers and thinkers, into the earth with you. Be one with the dull, the indiscriminate dust. A fragment of what you felt, of what you knew. A formula, a phrase remains, but the best is lost. Down, down, down into the darkness of the grave. Quietly they go, the intelligent, the witty, and the brave. Quietly they go, the beautiful, the tender, the kind. Oh, I know, I do not, I am not resigned. The answer's quick and clean, the honest look, the laughter, the love. They are gone, they've gone to feed the roses, elegant curl. Here's the blossom, fragrant is the blossom, I know, but I am not. More precious was the light in your eye than all the roses in the world. Down, down, down into the darkness of the grave. Quietly they go, the intelligent, the witty, and the brave. Gently they go, the beautiful, the tender, the kind. Oh, I know I am not used, and I am not resigned. Oh, I know that I'll never approve, and I'll never be resigned. Don't give up.
Hello, my name is Catherine Gonzalez. On behalf of the youth, board of directors, and staff of OutYouth, I want to express how humbled and honored we are to support this year's Transgender Day of Remembrance. OutYouth was founded in 1990 and has served the transgender, bisexual, lesbian, and gay youth of Central Texas for nearly 25 years. We provide free individual counseling, free and confidential HIV testing, and a drop-in center, which is open 3 nights per week and offers social and educational programming for our youth. I wish to express my gratitude to Out Youth for asking me to share my thoughts with you tonight. As this night approaches each year, I become viscerally aware of my desperate wish to arrive in this place and find that we have no names to add to our list. Yet each year I arrive and sit here awash in names and grief. Certainly I grieve for the loss of those we honor tonight, taken from us by horrific acts of violence. But I also find myself grieving for the want of memory. I grieve because I cannot remember them, for all I have been left with are their names and the reverberating silence of their absence. I grieve because I will never delight in knowing them, at least in this lifetime. I will never know their kindness, their compassion, the unique and captivating beauty of their souls. And while I may never meet them, I am certain of my love for them, each and every one, all of those we have lost in years past, and those we seem all but certain to lose in the years to come. So let this be my vow, that my grief will stand as a testament to their lives, a renewed commitment to end this violence. For as long as I am here, I will love them and work in honor of their memories and in hopes for a day without names.
Hello, my name is Chris Filato. I'm here on behalf of PFLAG Austin. It's an organization for parents, family, friends of the gays and lesbian that has progressed to the point now where it's LGBTQIA+. So I would like to give a speech that really touches us whenever we have our support groups and we hear the family dynamic and all the struggles. Today we are here to remember our lost friends, family members, children, and spouses. Our society brings many challenges to minority groups. In this case, it most often leads transgender people into a path of survival. For parents, it needs to be a priority to create a safe environment for our kids. This is all where it starts. We're starting to reach a time where individuals can talk about their family and feelings and curiosity without being excluded from the whole. Statements like, "I'd rather play outside with the boys," or "I'd rather wear a dress," are major events that affect our self-worth, and particularly for transgender individuals, trigger a great deal of shame if this behavior is thought to be abnormal and not valid. By remembering the ones who did have to struggle with the depression, shame, and transphobia, we stand up for our community. It helps us to see what happens when people is neglected for being who they truly are, regardless of what their body appears to be. For our parents, it reminds them to refer to the child's preferred gender pronouns. For siblings, it's an opportunity to open up and talk about each other's identity. For spouses, it reminds them that their partner underwent a life full of internal struggles. For would-be predators, it is a proclamation that we will not be defeated and to leave us alone. Unfortunately, these distinctions are only possible of our struggling and fallen transgenders. If we weren't here today, remembering these injuries and losses, history would simply continue to repeat itself. Parents might continue to conclude that this is only a phase. Employees would still be let go because of the way they dress and express themselves. Bullying and hate crimes would continue to go unperished, and so on. By looking back at our history, our society has learned how serious this issue is. We have started building a language to better communicate what it means to have a gender identity. This year, We have more hope from hearing that the Human Rights Campaign apologized for not fully protecting the transgender community. Transgenders are now getting more role models like Laverne Cox and Chaz Bono, standing up to redefine what it is to be a human being. We now have organizations like the Belong To campaign and the Stop Bullying Project that are educating our youth. In Austin, our city council finally approved gender-neutral bathrooms. These progressive events would not have happened if it weren't for our fallen brothers, sisters, and genderqueer family members. These memories from past generations are testimonials that remind us that no one deserves to undergo this sort of pain and agony simply for being themselves. These experiences have turned into building blocks that is building up the foundation of our transgender community. We remember and has let us come together today with pride. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Katie Kuntz. So I'm going to jump out of line tonight because I didn't get my homework in time. So Rivka didn't know that what I'm going to talk to you about really needs to be earlier in the program because I'm talking about emotional self-care tips for surviving the Transgender Day of Remembrance. My wife, Paige Schilt, wrote a blog this week interviewing me on this. And because I've been at most of these, at least 12 out of 13 maybe, and I agree with what a blogger, Autumn Sandine, said, that it is a difficult event to attend. So I thought I would talk about some emotional self-care tips. Thank you, Rivka and Stephanie and Tent, for having me back again this year. I want to give a shout out to people I remember: Lisa Sheps, Paula Bowles, Beth Westbrook, that we lost to medical neglect many years ago. Robin Greth, we lost to suicide many years ago. I'm always thinking of you every year at this time. So I'm going to start backwards because that's how I don't turn in my homework very well, and they cannot keep us down. Talk to people. Remember, trans people love talking and helping other trans people. If you're new, ask what is happening in the community. If you're an old-timer, pay it forward. Resolve to use the Transgender Day of Remembrance as a stepping stone to more community, more action. I'd like to give a shout out. Last year I said, let's get together, let people organize some stuff that we don't only see each other this time of year. And shout out to the transgender, the TGQ Social, Tent, CTTGS, and all you for gathering. I know you don't want your therapist just sitting around at those things, so I don't come, but but I'm glad you're doing that. Number 4. And this is the last one. Observe yourself with compassion. Take note of the things that trigger you. Sometimes the very thing that's the hardest things for people out here to listen to are parents talking because they didn't have parental support, or the youth talking empowered because they didn't feel like empowered youths. So we come back to the beginning. Breathe. Thank you.
Hi. It's working? Okay. Hi, my name is Rivka. I'm part of the Transgender Education Network of Texas. Love you. Love you too, Lisa, Stephanie. Before I start, I want to repeat some of the announcements for those who got here a little bit late. We tried to do something about the weather. The restrooms are open. They're right kind of back there. If you would like to be walked to your car after the event, sorry. Hi. If you'd like to walk to your car after the event, if you please come up to this table up here, and we'll get someone to walk you. As Stephanie said, we'd like to invite everybody to join with us in community at the end of our observance. We will be at the IHOP at I-35, Cesar Chavez. You can just tell them that you're with Tent. I want to personally thank our ASL interpreters. And I'm going to apologize, Melinda. I forgot to ask you how to pronounce your last name. Melinda, I'm going to mess it up. I'm sorry. Melinda began working with us about 5 years ago. If it's the beginning of October and I haven't reached out for her, she finds me. Bethany Sneed and Anna Funing have both been working with us for 2 years. Alicia is with us for the first year. Your assistance, your being part of this event, out of the love in your heart is amazing, and there are not enough thanks. This event can be emotional, and as Katie just talked about, it can be triggering. So I want to remind you, if you would like to speak to somebody at any time, Katie is up in the front, and Paula is over here. They have both, as Katie said, they're both psychotherapists, and they are amazing and valuable resources for us. I do want to note that when I'm quoting somebody directly, I will be using the pronouns that they themselves used. On November 19th, 1995, William Palmer and Chanel Pickett left a bar in Boston, Massachusetts that catered to the transgender community. They eventually wound up at William Palmer's apartment. Later that morning, or early the next morning, William's roommates reported hearing screaming. When they inquired, they were told everything was okay. The next afternoon, November 20th, Palmer went to go see his lawyer, who then called the police to report that they would find a dead body in Mr. Palmer's house. That dead body was Chanel Pickett. At the trial, the medical examiner testified that Chanel was, quote, throttled for at least 8 minutes. His face was beaten and bedding may have been stuffed down his throat. William Palmer never disputed that Chanel Pickett died following a disturbance between the two of them. He did claim that he did not know that Chanel was transsexual. When they began having sex, I'm gonna wait a minute. When they began to have sex, he discovered that Chanel had a penis. He asked her to leave. Palmer testified that Chanel started to get violent and that he sat on her buttocks and held her shoulders down. Quote, I used enough force to stabilize him. I intended to get him out of my house. Adding that Pickett was still breathing when he released her. Palmer then went to sleep, waking to find Chanel dead. The court convicted William Palmer of assault and battery. I was sitting right behind William Palmer when he was sentenced to 2.5 years in jail. 2.5 years for taking someone's life, for murdering Chanel Pickett. Chanel was a transgender woman of color. William as a cisgender white man. Last night, for the first time, I found out that Chanel's twin sister, Gabrielle, who also identified as transgender, was murdered in June 2003. 2 sisters, 2 lives, 2 people who felt justified in taking someone else's life. Rita Hester was a transgender woman of color. She was out with friends in a neighborhood bar in Allston, Massachusetts. The next day, November 28, 1998, Rita was found in her apartment. She had been stabbed multiple times, murdered. I wish I could tell you that the perpetrator of this crime has been caught. On a cold Friday evening, a few days later, I stood with others at the bar where Rita was last seen. I watched, helpless and in tears, as Rita's mother cried out in grief for her murdered daughter. The following year, in 1999, Gwendolyn Ann Smith began the Remembering Our Dead project, which is now celebrated worldwide as the Transgender Day of Remembrance. Roy Antonio Jones III was 16 months old. His mother's boyfriend repeatedly punched him in the chest, causing the baby to go into cardiac arrest. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. His murderer, Pedro Jones, told police he was trying to make him act like a boy instead of a little girl. I hold this baby in my heart. Recently, I was telling someone this little boy's story, and they replied that this was really a case of sexism, not a case of being murdered for being gender diverse. Not all of those we mourn tonight self-identified as being gender diverse. Some were murdered because their killers perceive them to be gender diverse. We must work for the day when all are safe, regardless of gender expression or gender identity. As you read the names of those in your program, you will see too often name unknown. To those people, I promise, while your name may not be known, your community will remember and hold you in our hearts forever. I can offer very little comfort to loved ones of those murdered, and even to those of us tonight. However, we are far from powerless. We can educate. We can lobby our legislators. We can work with people from different organizations to bring about social change. We will continue to live.
My name is Paula Bowles. I'm a clinical social worker and psychotherapist here in Austin. I was the first out trans woman to graduate from the School of Social Work at the University of Texas at Austin. I'm so honored to be here tonight and to look out and to see this sea of people coming here tonight. This is truly amazing. I was thinking today about another Transgender Day of Remembrance. I think it was the third one here in Austin, and like tonight, it was a very rainy night. Only there was a very small gathering of us, maybe 10 or 15 of us attending that night, and it was in a little park, Republic Square Park, a few blocks from here. We couldn't get the generator to work, and we kind of huddled there, some of us under umbrellas, some of us just getting wet. And we remembered and we honored those that had lost their lives that year. I think about where we were in our history as a movement at that time. I think about the fact that on that day, 10 years ago, I don't recall any media announcements about a Transgender Day of Remembrance. It was something we kind of learned about from others in the community, and it was kind of like, did you hear? There's going to be a day of remembrance for us. I woke up this morning listening to NPR. There was a whole segment about the Day of Remembrance. I pulled out my smartphone, opened it up to Huffington Post. Big banner thing on the Transgender Day of Remembrance. I come here and I see all of these people. I attended a beautiful, beautiful church service last Sunday, in which the whole sermon and the whole church service was focused around the Day of Remembrance in the transgender community. I think about Laverne Cox on the cover of Time magazine. I think about the clients that I have had that are working in jobs where they have insurance that has paid for them to transition. I think about all of the distance that we have come in the last 10, 15 years. I'm saddened deeply by the losses in the last year and the tragedy of those deaths. But those deaths were not in vain. And each day, each one of us who gets up, walks out the door, goes to our job, goes to our families, goes to our school, walks down the street, that we are being transgendered warriors. I'm so glad that we had a little memory for Leslie Feinberg tonight. I remember when I was first starting on hormones and I read Stone Butch Blues. And I wept. I wept like I had not wept in my entire life for my brothers and my sisters and my kindred spirits of the entire gender spectrum. And I prayed that the day would come when we would be able to have a different world. And I believe that truly we have met a tipping point where we're well on our way to that. This is a time to keep doing what we're doing, to keep showing up, to keep the attention in the media, to keep loving ourselves and loving each other and being compassionate with ourselves and being gentle and nurturing with ourselves, and then fearlessly getting up and walking out the door and doing it again. Thank you all so very much.
Hi, I'm Mac Morrison, and I'm going to be reading a poem to you that I do at Slam. And as I'm reading it, please think about the people that you know, the people around you. The poem that I'm about to read is actually a true story, but the names have been changed. It's called Pay Attention. Everyone agreed that Alma was a beauty with those luminous eyes and mane of shiny hair. She could have been a model. Everyone said so. She always carried herself courageously, and she walked upright with full strides, not tentative like the other girls. Alma had been dealt a hand from birth, a body that didn't match the woman she was in her heart. But Alma believed in her future, that she was meant for great things, and she loved the song, I Am Beautiful, and sang it every time it came on the radio. I am beautiful, no matter what they say. Words can't bring me down. No, don't bring me down today. When she moved to the city for college, it was a fresh start where no one made comments behind her back, where she could be herself at last. She was a good student. She planned to be a scientist. She loved puzzles, and she was smart, if insecure in it. She kept to herself and threw herself into her studies, determined to make her family proud of her. Finally. But she was often lonely. So when Carlos came along with his flashing smile and neon charm, she fell like dozens of others, and Alma never realized that making lovers feel special was Carlos's stock in trade. Alma was sure he was her soulmate, but Carlos didn't believe in love, and one day he just left with another girl. He called her and said it was over, and he was into a real woman. The words cut like a knife, and Alma was alone again, dealing with the inward devastation of a heart given so freely and with trust, and yet it didn't matter. After the first week, when her friends comforted her, she stayed in her apartment way too much and rarely attended class. No one asked where she was because their class loads were so heavy and they had homework and the big game that week. When Alma got the call that her papa had cancer, she made plans to go home, but he was dead within hours, and she never got to say goodbye. At the funeral, her mother was distant, and Alma went home to her tiny apartment and spent a week crying and trying to remember why her life even mattered. And after the first week, her friends stopped calling because their lives were just so damn busy, and they knew Alma was so strong after all. Alma didn't want to worry people with her problems, and besides, she rarely got what she asked for anyway. She wanted love, she wanted friendship, but most of her friends were in couples, and they had such full schedules, and they meant well, but it was so hard to find the time. On Sunday morning, Alma called Christy, but she had shopping to do and a dinner party that night, so Alma called Rose and Juan, but they were packing for their second honeymoon in Puerto Vallarta, and Alma's sister was working so much overtime, and besides, she would just nag her for not going to class, and Alma's bestie, Sarah, had awful cramps and a headache because it was that time of month, and Yala was without a car and in a sour mood. It's funny how, looking back on it, how focused we get on unimportant things, but they seem so important at the time. Alma called her mother, but she scolded her and reminded her how much her education was costing and asked her, did she take pleasure in tormenting her family? Alma washed her beautiful hair and she put on makeup. She lay her best dress out on the bed. She wanted to be lovely when they found her. She wanted them to notice that she had been a woman of depth and beauty, and she hoped it wouldn't upset her family since they were Catholic and believed in hell. Alma believed in a merciful God, one who didn't play practical jokes on people or create mistakes that he was ashamed of. And as she put on her pretty dress, she was thinking that Jesus would understand and maybe comfort her. And she trusted that he wouldn't be too mad about what she was doing. And so she turned on the gas and lay down on the bed and waited. When they heard about Alma's suicide, her friends were astounded and maybe a little angry because she hadn't warned them. And at the funeral, they agreed that if Alma had just been more specific about needing their help, they would have done things differently. But as it was, how could they have known? They played her favorite song, I Am Beautiful. And the voice of Christina Aguilera ran out through the church, but no one got the irony. And some of the students gossiped and said it was because she wasn't like a normal girl. There must have been something really wrong in her head. And Alma's mother cried and consulted with the priest because she was worried that Satan had her now. And Alma's sister had to leave because she was working more overtime. And life moved on. Alma's suicide note was destroyed because it read, "Pay attention." And no one really knew what that meant, but it creeped them out, so it was better gone from sight. Everyone agreed that Alma had been a great beauty and that her death had been a terrible tragedy. But at least they congratulated themselves. They had done all they could.
Good evening. My name is Gregory Abink, and it is a real honor for me to be here tonight on behalf of the Austin Police Department's Lesbian Gay Police Officers Association. I suspect, however, that I was asked to represent our association as I am the only transgender police officer on the force here in the city of Austin. Nonetheless, this is the first time I will get the chance to tell my story on such a public platform. My story began 39 years ago. Although born anatomically female, I knew from as early of an age as I can remember that I was a boy. At the age of 5, I would ask my parents why God didn't make me a boy. I wanted to be called by the name that my parents would have given me had I been anatomically male, which I can proudly say is my legal name today. Growing up, I was forced to think and act like the other little girls around me. All my mannerisms and interests were different from my female classmates, and I knew I was different. I hated having to wear dresses or anything that identified me as female, because on the inside, I was screaming for someone to hear me, that I was a boy. And then came middle school and high school. Let's just say I played a lot of sports and didn't go to my senior prom. But all the while, year after year, year after adolescent year, I never felt that I could trust anyone enough to tell them the secret that I had been living with. There was nobody for me to turn to in order for me to know that I was normal, that everything was going to be okay. After college, I joined the U.S. Army, where I proudly served our country for 4 years. Even then, I knew that I was not fully being honest with myself or anyone else for that matter. Nobody asked, so I didn't tell. And it continued this way for many years. Although surrounded by an amazing community and supportive family, I still worried about what other people might think or the repercussions of disclosing such a secret. Here I was, a military veteran and a 10-year police officer, and I still had a hard time finding the courage to be true to myself. It wasn't until just recently that I revealed my lifelong secret to my family and my friends. The freedom I feel today is unlike anything else I have ever experienced in my life. It is like I have been reborn into the person that I was always meant to be. My life today is filled with an overwhelming excitement and joy, and the future looks brighter than it ever did. But in spite of all the hurdles I have had to overcome to get to this point, I am well aware that many others in the transgender community have had a much more difficult journey. They have encountered the intolerance and bigotry that exists in our society. Countless individuals have been the victim of hatred and violence. Their lives, just as precious as anyone else's, were tragically cut short. No one should ever have to know the feeling of intolerance or prejudice. No one should ever have to feel that they will be judged for being themselves. No person should have to face a society that threatens isolation, criticism, or ridicule. Not one single person should ever die because they had the courage to be themselves and to experience the freedom that all human beings are entitled to. We are brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, husbands and wives. We are individuals who love and who are loved. On this day, we join together to remember those remarkable men and women whose deaths stand as a stark reminder of the work yet to be done. Inspire those around you to tell their stories so that people can learn about our lives, about our hopes and aspirations, and even our struggles. Change occurs when we open the hearts and minds of everyone from lawmakers to corporations and healthcare providers, all the way down to our neighbors next door. It is so important for us to pave the way for future generations of transgender individuals to live better lives. So today, on this Transgender Day of Remembrance, my prayer would be that each one of us, no matter where we live or where we work, perseveres in our struggle for equality, while at the same time honoring those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you.
Hi, I'm the Reverend Stephanie True, the Associate Pastor at University Baptist Church. I invite you, as you feel comfortable, to pray with me. God of love, God of courage, God of inclusion, God of creation. Here we stand gathered to be a witness to our community, our nation, and our world. We stand as a witness to say that the fear of violence has gone on for too long. We stand as a witness that hatred that is spewed, cloaked in religious language, does not come from you, God. But we stand to say that all people are beloved. All people matter. All are created in your beautiful image, beyond any earthly biological category. We stand as a witness against invisibility, that these senseless deaths are somehow justified because they are on the fray of society. We cry out, God, how long must your children suffer? We stand as a visible witness, a witness to inclusion, a witness to love, a witness to the reality of lives lost, a witness that there is a loving community gathered to be a part of changing the world. Holy God, we grieve the lives lost. We pray you create a place of refuge in us as we stand together. We pray that we are co-creators, creating safe places and communities. And God, we pray for the day when we would no longer need a day of remembrance, but could rejoice in a day of celebration of no life lost. Peace on earth, peace on earth. We pray for peace on earth. Alleluia. Amen.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Rocky Lane, and this guy back here on the computer is Hunter Powell, and we represent a local group called Universal Joint. And I have to say, you guys look beautiful to me, and it's really wonderful to see that we have such power in community and art and music, and that makes me proud to raise my voice today. Thank you for having us. And the song that we're going to perform for you today is called Innocent Girl. And it's about love, a different kind of love. And I think that's where the focus should always be, because that's what brought us here. Love of self and love of innocent girls, maybe. Thank you, guys.
Why is it always the innocent ones who give you the fever to howl and swoon, twisting up in tides and risking the moon, drawing first blood regrets to interlude? Innocent girl with her kink affinity. Innocent girl, dig your hooks back into me. Your hooks back into me. That fierce flare that I try to avoid, and versus your fire I will certainly be destroyed. You're ripping my skin out with your mouth, and I am defenseless, trying to live without you.
Thank you guys very much.
Hi, my name is Danielle Harvey, and it's an honor speaking here at this event tonight. I'm the proud niece of Stephanie Martinez, and I'm here to talk about how it is to be a family member of a transgendered person. The best way I can define how it is to be a family member of a transgender person is I feel like an advocate. For me, that means reminding people that my aunt is not only a human being, but a woman. That is who she is. I often get the question, is she all woman? And to that, I'd like to reference something I found that I can't take credit for. I don't know who the author is, but it truly touched my heart. A true woman is not defined by style, culture, smell, or personality. A true woman is a woman who wakes up every morning faced with millions of decisions, and despite what the world is telling her, she chooses to make the right one. She stands by what she believes, realizes what she deserves, and doesn't settle for less. She is honest and loyal, 100% faithful. She puts up with far more than she should. A true woman gets back up and fights for what she wants over and over again, even though every time she's tried before, she's lost. She is understanding and patient, yet abrasive, and takes the bull by the horns. She gives respect and expects it in return. You see, a true woman is not defined by culture or size or any of that. She's defined by you. My Aunt Steffi, that's how we like to refer to her, me and my daughters. She's one of the most loving and giving and most resilient person I know. And despite all the obstacles in her way, she remains optimistic. I didn't expect to get so emotional. My point being is, to those who don't understand the transgender community and what they endure daily, that gender has nothing to do with how you see someone, but rather accepting and respecting how that person sees themselves. Thank you.
Sorry guys, I'm short. My name's Kobe. I just came back from a retreat where we talked a lot about strengths and weaknesses, and we realized how hard it is to sometimes remember our strengths. It's so much easier to remember our weaknesses because that's all we're told all of the time. And not just to remember those strengths, but to celebrate them. We don't feel like we're allowed to celebrate them. We have to be extra humble so that we don't upset anyone. So I want everyone here to give yourself permission to be strong, to be proud, to be unapologetic, and to celebrate it, because we kick ass and we are beautifully resilient people. And if you're having trouble remembering how we kick ass, let me remind you about it. Within the LGBTQ movement as a whole, some of the most visible, dominant voices are white men. But within the trans community, our most dominant, visible voices are trans women of color, specifically black women, like Laverne Cox and Janet Mock. Trans women of color have led or been a part of every major advancement, not just for the trans community, but for the LGBTQ movement as a whole. Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera kicked off the Stonewall riots, but 3 years before that, in 1966, trans women were rioting at Compton's cafeteria in the Tenderloin. And if you're having trouble remembering ways that we're resilient, let me remind you about that. We live in a world that isn't made for us. We face staggering levels of poverty, discrimination, murder, and suicide. We live in a world where something as simple as going to the bathroom is controversial. But we're still fighting, and we will keep fighting. Just living our lives is an act of revolution. Just being here tonight is an act of revolution. So while we mourn our losses and remember their spirits, I hope we can also celebrate their strengths and resilience and remember our own strength and resilience, because we are powerful and we shouldn't apologize for that anymore.
Rivka has asked that I remind everyone that we have two very highly qualified therapists here this evening. If anybody would like to talk to someone, Katie Kuntz is here in the front part of the row. And Paula Bowles, I think, is somewhere behind the lights over there. Hidden Battle by Michelle Edwards. He awoke this morning, another night of her dreams. He glanced into the mirror. She's not real, it seems. Society unknowingly accepts the image presented, unaware of the damage being self-inflicted. He hides her for fear of rejection. She battles for her reflection.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Smith, and I'm very honored to be here on behalf of Equality Texas. Each year that I come to the Day of Remembrance, there is a mix of emotions. It is an evening where we can grieve. It is an evening where we can be sad. But I also try to use it as an opportunity to make it an evening where we can recommit to the future. Because we're here tonight to remember those whose lives were taken from them, most of them violently. We're also here to remember those who ended their own lives because the burdens were more than they could carry. But the prevention, this has to be about more than just the prevention of death. This evening has to be about a commitment to the work that needs to be done to eliminate the burdens that affect transgender people. There is so much work to be done, but we can leave here tonight and make sure that we are committed to eliminate burdens. Burdens like the ability to get a driver's license. Burdens like being able to get a job. Burdens like having shelter and a roof over one's head. Burdens like having access to medically appropriate health care. So while we are here tonight and we grieve the loss of people who are no longer with us, let us please recommit to the living and to those that are with us, and let us work every day until all of us, every single one of us, are treated equally. Thank you very much.
Before I start, I want to say that last November, I also spoke at the Trans Day of Remembrance. And it was looking out into the faces of all of the people that were here that gave me the courage after, 27 years of knowing that I was a trans man to finally honor and respect myself enough to take that leap. And I feel incredibly lucky to look around and see people from my church, to see members of my American Sign Language community, my doctors in the crowd, my beautiful partners here. And I just feel like if it wasn't for seeing you guys, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So, thank you. A year ago today, my message was about bravery, about the giant leaps of faith we make every day. Being trans means that every place you enter, vacation you go on, bathroom you use, person you meet, doctor's visit you have, date you go on is an adventure. But over the last year, I realized that it isn't all about bravery. It's about enjoying the path we have been brave enough to make for ourselves. We can wake up and be scared and live in fear and mourn the lives we lead. We can be upset that it is taking us longer than we hoped for our bodies to manifest into what we dreamed up. that our partners are having a hard time seeing us for who we are, that our friends and family cannot seem to get our pronouns correct, or we can be grateful. We are living in a time where we can come out. We have rights protecting our jobs in some states. There are gender neutral bathrooms. Trans people are leading roles in major TV shows. We are shown in a positive light in movies, sometimes. We are living in a time where we can be excited, that we are more able now than ever to live our life as our authentic selves. But we are all here because despite those advancements, the numbers are not in our favor. These treasures of progress that we hold in our hands were not handed to us out of the kindness of other people's hearts. Each step towards equality has come at the hands of the people who came before us. Each daring move they made in defense of themselves allows us to congregate openly without fear at City Hall. I know that we are here to mourn the deaths, but because these deaths are the result of acts of hate, I ask that you try to celebrate your life. I think the biggest acts of retaliation to victimization from oppression comes in the form of living our lives pridefully, chin-ups, arms back. So many of us are here for such small periods of time. I hope that we can take the lessons from the past and make more noise to prevent similar acts in the future. I don't want their lives to be in vain. We should cherish our lives and enjoy the time we do have to commemorate them. The steps we have taken forward as a community are largely a result of these vigils. We are taking stands and saying that our lives matter. When we are able to share our stories, more and more people can change their minds about what it means to be transgender. Those acts of courageous openness pave lanes. But sometimes, courage lies in finding beauty in yourself. Although the lives we are here to mourn were there, I'm sorry, I did that on accident. So sometimes it's hard to find beauty in yourself. I'll continue. I do not personally know any trans people who have committed suicide, but I do know that life isn't always easy, that there are days for all of us that get us down, that disproportionately trans people commit suicide more often than any other group of people, that most of us have experienced loss in many forms, from friends to loved ones, partners, jobs, homes. I do know that identifying as trans isn't easy, and that being trans isn't just about coming out. It can be hard to deal with the unique set of circumstances being a trans-identified person brings to the table. It is hard to steer a conversation turning towards your genitals, look into the eyes of people you love and share a deep truth. Allow for people to love you for yourself, and to not look in the mirror and be hypercritical. It's tough to learn how to apply makeup when all the girls were learning without you in middle school. It's hard to learn to laugh loud with the guys when you were socialized to giggle quietly inside yourself. I was raised by my mother. I was socialized by women. I can't help but sashay and sway. There is a limp in my wrist and I flip my hair. I learned that no matter how effeminate I may be perceived, I love the man that I am becoming. And I realize that in choosing to be a man, I can also choose to be the kind of man I can respect and admire. I am the kind of man that occasionally wears women's clothing, has sex with both men and women, and has a limitless dick size. One that can empathize with my partner's period and can see life from her perspective. In choosing to see those small silver linings, I keep my darkness at bay. I remind myself, in choosing to be seen by the world as a man I have always believed myself to be, I have chosen to be part of one of the bravest communities of people in the world. The lives we are here to mourn must not be in vain. Look around. I invite you to be courageously out and feeling beautiful in all the ways that are important to you. Being hopeful for a future for yourself. To not let your changing body impact your self-esteem or confidence too drastically. Paying kindness forward and celebrating the lives we're able to lead today. Thank you again so much for being here.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jess, and I am honored, blessed, and privileged to speak to you here tonight on behalf of ALGO, a statewide queer people of color organization based here in Austin. I regret why we're here today, but it is.
Let's honor some of the transgender murder victims of the past year. It's sad that we continue to have to do this year after year. However, look around you. We are more numerous. We are more visible. Take heart. It will get better. As we read the names of the victims, the person representing the victim will come up and take a seat on the stage. Let us begin. Rosa Rebut, blunt force trauma. Betty Skinner, blunt force trauma to the head. Brittany Sturgis, gunshot wound to the head. Candy Hall, massive trauma, body left in a field. Zoraida Brace, strangled, her body dumped in a parking lot. Mia Henderson, massive trauma, found dead in an alley. Yasmin Chances, shot in the chest, then lit on fire and left to die. Tiffany Edwards, gunshot wounds. Alejandra Leos, gunshot to the back. Anya Parker, gunshot wound to the head. Gilbert Gizzy Fowler, shot to death. Tadshawn Ashley Sherman, gunshot wound to the head. N. Unidentified trans woman, shot to death. Calvin Lipscomb, trans woman, gunshot wound, burned, body thrown in dumpster. Amarillo Hill, shot multiple times. Yeah.
gonna come. That's your part. Change is gonna come. If you got money, then you do as you please. Keep us all hungry, down on our knees. Your sweatshops and bailouts, your ad-lib campaigns. But I know change is coming. I said yes, we said change.